I am here alone again. No. Welcome to episode 23, guys. Sorry this one's been a bit late. It's been a bit of a hectic week for myself, and I didn't have any guests at the end of last week, so I kind of had to think about what I was going to do today. So I'm actually recording this on Friday, so I'm actually going to release this today. So there you go. Look at that. Something a bit different. Yeah, it's been quite funny, actually. So I had a good podcast with John the other day. John Faulding, shout out. It was awesome having him on. And I put up a few clips that like I normally do, just kind of across the platforms and all that. And fucking hell, man, it's pretty funny. Had some pretty great, some pretty funny responses to. There's a part of the podcast where we talk about John's experience in touring and traveling America, and we got onto the subject of how some Americans don't seem to understand, where New Zealand is located on the map, and understand I guess geography. I'm fucking around. But, that's what we were talking about. And the responses I got to that, especially on YouTube, oof, that fucking hit a few nerves, didn't it? Some people got pretty upset about what we said. We didn't even say anything that mean. But anyway, it was quite funny. Some people have been like, you guys, who cares about New Zealand? You're at the bottom of the world, you bunch of idiots. And then there was another comment being like, Australians, and I've traveled around Australia for blah, blah, blah. And also, they don't know much about America either, and they don't know much either, so blah, blah, blah. And that's what everyone sounds like to me in comments who write shit like that. That's what you sound like. So, just, be warned. That's what you sound like to me. Yeah, so that was hilarious. The clip's done quite well. Thank you for all the views and the likes, and I'd like you to give me money as well if you could. Man, that will be the day. You know what I mean? You become, not that I ever would, and I don't really want to be, but it does make me laugh. It's imagine if you just make money out of people not liking you. I mean, a lot of that exists online, obviously, but that kind of thinking cracks me up. It's what if I just make videos where people just hate them, but people keep coming back and watching and engaging with them and subscribing because I fuck people off. And then suddenly oh shit, I'm making all this money from people telling me I'm a dick. I mean, there's already a lot of people doing that, but anyway, I don't think I could live with myself if I do that. But this video kind of made me be do I need to shift my focus onto hating the United States? Seems to be working. Nah, probably not. Of course not. I'm not going to do that. But it was funny. And it was a good podcast. I have another good. We got a couple of guests lined up now, so you won't have to listen to me ramble on. We can listen to me ramble on with someone else, with more music orientated content as well, which is kind of what we've been doing mostly. Also, kind of keen to get out of, I still love doing the music, bring on local musicians, and a lot of people we've had on recently, actually people I don't know very well, like the Finger Type Boys, Conrad from the Sun Gods. There's been a couple of guests I don't necessarily know really well, which is cool. It's really great meeting new people, and of course they got some great music, and happy to help do what I can on this tiny little podcast to promote people. But at the same time, I also, if you've listened to any of the other podcasts that I've done with Scotty, or even listened to the podcast that I did with Tim, we kind of, nothing's off the table, we're happy to talk about whatever, or, so if anybody is keen to come on in terms of they're from a particular industry, or they have a creative passion that they do, or they've got something they'd like to promote, apart from a cult, I'm not going to promote your cult. I will talk to you about your cult, but I will not promote it. Fuck no. Old Brian Tamaki coming on here being like, hey, can I come on? To be honest, if Brian Tamaki came on here, bro, I might let him. But at the same time, I don't think I'll be that nice. But anyway, I guess I'm pretty open to have pretty much anybody on, as long as they're not complete, absolute twats. I don't mind. Politicians is probably something I'd stay away from. I love how I think I'm so important. Oh yes, politicians look at my podcast and be like, yes, this is a great platform. This is totally where I would come on and talk about my policies and talk about getting votes from from the Only Scots podcast, from a podcast called The Only Scots. So I love how I think I'm so important. I'll keep it that way. Anyway, enough of that kind of shit. I wanted to talk about Disney today, and you're like, why the fuck talking about Disney, Scott? And the answer to that is because on the last few podcasts I did on my own, I was kind of doing a bit of investigation, light investigation into these really big investment companies who seem to have shares in just everything. And I'm talking about BlackRock and also the Vanguard, the SPF 500, and just all the different investments and shares they have in so many different companies and in so many different entities that it kind of like freaks me out, because what that means is like there's a certain group of like a board of directors who seem to control and own everything. And especially when it comes to like media, or when it comes to like pharmaceutical drugs, and then it's like the military weapon stuff was pretty scary. And then obviously just owning like other kind of overarching corporations like Johnson & Johnson, Nestle, they have shares and investments in all of them. And another one that both Vanguard and BlackRock have investments in is Disney. And Disney also own a lot of different kinds of entities, not just including Disney Plus and obviously all the entertainment, but they got the Disney parks. They also own a lot of ESPN. They own they own a lot as well, and I kind of wanted to just dive into a little bit of Disney as well, to kind of, maybe for those who don't understand, and even for myself, this is kind of to learn a little bit more about the company of Disney. Who gave me this idea? It was actually Tim. Shout out Tim, who I had on the podcast. He said I should check him out, so yeah, we'll just give it a go and let's get started. All right. So I'm kind of just going to go through a few links I sort of discovered that I found interesting. But I'll sort of start off on like the basic sort of level, just to kind of get everybody, onto, a basic understanding of Disney. So Disney's been around since 1923. Originally it was called Disney Brothers Studio, so 1923 to 1926. Then it was called the Walt Disney Studio to 1929, and then Walt Disney Productions to 1986. And then ever since then, it's just been called Disney. So it's actually this year, on October 16th, it's going to be 100 years old. Isn't that crazy? Disney's going to be 100 years old on the 16th of October. Hot damn. They've been around in a few minutes. The founders, you always hear about Walt Disney. We don't hear much about Roy Disney. So those are, two founders. Currently, the key people involved is Mark Parker, the chairman, and Bob Iger is the CEO. The kind of products that they have, kind of like an overview, just amusement parks, comic books, films, music, television programs, video games, and web portholes. Services such as broadcasting, licensing, publishing, radio, streaming, and television. All right, here we go. Let's get into the numbers. All right, so at the end of 2022, the revenue generated by Disney, and this is everything that they own, was $82.7 billion. Oh my gosh. That's the revenue they generated. And here we go. So this is also, I think, an important metric, is the total assets that they own. It's 203.6 billion American dollars. Oh, buddy. It's definitely a lot. And also, like, they have, like I said, they sort of divided up into, I think their revenue comes across from the entertainment side, Disney Entertainment, Disney Parks and Experiences, and their own sort of merchandise and products. And also ESPN is owned by Disney. So that whole sports network is owned by Disney. They also have ownership of National Geographic, apparently 73%. So, yeah, they're definitely, quite the powerful force. Let's put it that way. And what else I also wanted, what I also wanted to get into a little bit was having a little look at not just the revenue that they were getting. It was like there's a really good. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at this like a table that really illustrates like how much that money they've generated and how much they make in like recent times. Because I think a lot of people. Well, I don't know. That's an assumption, but I think when it comes to Disney and maybe some entertainment companies, because everyone's always streaming or downloading, I don't know if we really look at like, sorry, not look at, but if we think about, how much money are they making? Have they lost lots of money over the years? People aren't obviously, this is such an old thing to talk about now, but like buying DVDs or Blu-ray or whatever. People don't always go to the movies. Movies are still really popular, for sure. But kind of like what I've looked at is in terms of like the annual operating income of like of Disney. When it comes to the total annual operating income, this is in the millions, by the way. So the annual operating income in 1991 was 1,000. So this is in the millions, by the way. I'm not gonna say the millions and billions, but 1,094, right? That was 1991, and then in 2018 it's 15,000 at 700. You know what I mean? Like the increase in revenue is insane. Like the amount of annual revenue that the Walt Disney Company gets is it's more than you or I will ever see in our lives. Let's put it that way. All right, cool. So that's kind of like the basics of it. What I also wanted to kind of go over was what companies does Disney own. I sort of talked about sort of like kind of the basics, but I wanted to sort of look at some of the more specific parts, specific entities that they owned. So they own ABC, that news network, ESPN we talked about before. Apparently, so this website, this is nofilmschool.com. So they say that they have an 80% stake in ESPN. That's so much. So ESPN's mainly a sports network. Now, I don't really watch much sport apart from kind of UFC, so I don't really watch ESPN. Do they just do sport or do they do current events as well? Because I'm wondering, like kind of what I was saying before about BlackRock and Vanguard, like you can kind of switch up the narrative, man, if you really want. All right, so ESPN, 80% stake. Touchstone Pictures, Marvel. Okay, some of these that we know. Marvel, Lucasfilm, of course. A&E. Accident and Emergency, apparently. 50% equity holding with the Hart Corporation. History Channel. 50% equity holding. Lifetime. Pixar. Yeah, we know that. Hollywood Records, Vice Media. Oh, interesting. Core Publishing. Interesting. And as we kind of go on down the list a little bit more, I mean, there's things that we already know, but I guess let's talk about the biggest franchises that Disney owns. So the biggest franchise that Disney owns is Star Wars, right? That's the biggest one. It's bigger than Marvel. So Star Wars, Muppets, the Muppets, Marvel, so all of that cinematic universe, Disney princesses and princes, so Cinderella, Mulan, Frozen, Aladdin, and The Lion King. The Chronicles of Narnia franchise, Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, Pixar films, Toy Story, Incredibles, and Cars, Winnie the Pooh franchise, Indiana Jones, and Grey's Anatomy. I mean, that's a lot of money just coming in off that. So that's kind of sets you up for sort of understanding a bit more of what they own and sort of what they run in terms of, I imagine a lot of people probably already know that. Moving on. All right, let's get into the juicy stuff. So 7 companies. So this is about the largest companies that they own. So this is the largest companies that Disney apparently has ownership and shares in. So 21st Century Fox, they have acquisition back in 2019. The acquisition price was $71 billion. Whew, my gosh. ABC. So they acquired them. So we already went over that, but they acquired them in 1995, $19 billion. Pixar Animation Studios, they acquired them in 2006, $7.4 billion. Lucasfilm, yeah, they bought them out in 2012. That's right. I remember that. That was a big deal. $4.1 billion. And then they ruined Star Wars. To be honest, the TV shows on Star Wars are fucking awesome. So good. Mandalorian's sick. And yeah, Ahsoka's really, really cool. I'm enjoying that too. But yeah, definitely changed the direction of that whole thing. Marvel Entertainment, they acquired them in 2009 for $4 billion. BAMTech. Oh, okay. So it's a streaming service. So $1 billion in 2 installments, apparently they acquired it back in 2016 and 2017, 2 different acquisition dates. So what does... so BAMTech is a Major League Baseball advanced media. Okay. So it's a baseball media company. Company focused on live streaming MLB games. Streams over Apple, iTunes Store. Who fucking goes on iTunes Store anymore? All right, well, I mean, yeah, sounds like a huge company to have shares in. So those are some really massive ones that Disney have their hands in, right? It's a lot of media companies, eh? I think that's what gets a bit crazy. It's like, if you really want to change people's minds and perspectives and culture, you get into the media. I mean, right now, it's pretty interesting. There's obviously a lot of gossip at the moment going around about Russell Brand. I'm sure people have probably seen something on social media about sexual assaults or accusations against him. There we go. We got the word. And all the way dating back to Forgetting Sarah Marshall and MTV back in the 2000s and shit. And like, it just raises questions. Why? Now, Russell Brand, I watched some of his stuff. He can get very over the top and definitely loves to kind of go a bit crazy on his vocabulary. God, I can't even talk today. He really loves to sort of let you know how much of the dictionary he's been reading. He's very good at adjectives. Very good. But it's just very convenient. Like all this news coming out. You know, it's like going in the past and just digging out people's shit because they said something you didn't like and you got upset or offended by it. And he's obviously upset some pretty big people because he talks to everybody. You know, he gets RFK. He's had him on. He obviously, him and Jordan Peterson. I think they talk a lot, and Jordan Peterson is a very controversial figure on his own. And then he brings on a lot of people from other scientists who have different perspectives on certain issues, including like climate, pharmaceutical industry, and people who've been involved in big business like Coca-Cola. And obviously, you're gonna ruffle some feathers saying shit like that. And they're trying to dig up some stuff on him because he lived a public life. I mean, he still has a public life, but he's not really a celebrity as such anymore. You know, when I was growing up, he was just in all really big movies. You know, he was dating Katy Perry. You know, he was kind of he was the center of attention for sure. And now he's kind of like gone, not rogue, but he's on Rumble? And then sort of talks about all these, crazy things that are going on in the world. And I think what he does is really important. Whether or not you agree with it all, I don't think it actually matters. I think what matters is, at the moment, we're seeing some pretty crazy shit in terms of shutting down what is being called misinformation. However, who's deciding what misinformation is when, let's be honest, a lot of corporations and governments love misinformation? So it's a battle of misinformation. It's hilarious. It's okay. I shouldn't say it's hilarious. It's actually really sad. There's heaps of horrible shit happening right now, and I'm not going to go into all this stuff, but let's just say there's a lot of behind the curtain sort of shit going on that is getting more and more talked about, and people are getting more bothered by. And I think people like Russell Brand, he's probably not, I don't believe he's on the money all the time, but when stuff like this happens and, I go online to like social media, or I don't even read any news anymore because it's just so fucking biased anyway. I can't read it. I hate it. But when I go onto like any social media now, I will see his name pop up and all of these controversies. And it's like, look, if the guy is actually a rapist, and he's actually a horrible person, for one, I'd be surprised about the rape part, because that would have come out years ago. He did come out as a sex addict, so no doubt he's done some pretty fuck shit, which I believe he has. But I don't really believe him to like, I don't know. I don't really believe him to do all of those heinous things. But who knows? I mean, if he gets convicted and he actually did some horrible shit, he should definitely fucking face the consequences, of course. He should definitely face the consequences. But it's all a bit convenient, if you ask me. It's all a little convenient. Anyway. Oh, that was kind of a bit fun off topic. Right, so, sorry, still going back to Disney. Right, so we looked at the largest companies they own. Now I want to look at the top Disney shareholders. All right, are we ready? Guess who they are? You guessed it, it's BlackRock and Vanguard. They're the biggest ones. So according to Investopedia, it's quite a good website actually. It really shows you, really breaks down, the investments by these companies, and in a very simple way so an idiot like me can understand. So the Vanguard Group have 137.8 million shares of Disney, representing 7.6 of the total shares. BlackRock own 114.6 million shares. So they have representing 6.3% of total shares. And then the next one is State Street, State Street, which owns 75 million shares of Disney, 4.1% of total shares in the company. That is just nuts, man. It's interesting. So straight away what comes up after discussing all of these investments by these, let's just say, heinous investment companies, afterwards comes the diversity and inclusiveness of Disney. And this says this: improve the awareness of the importance of diversity in companies. Now, this topic is a bit of a dicey one, isn't it? I don't like how companies, especially ones as, let's just say, seedy and have very much an agenda, like to hide behind these sorts of like diversity, LGBTQ friendly, when really they're doing like the most evil shit in the world, but they're like, hey, we're diverse. But we don't. But at the same time, they're like, oh yeah, but we don't give a shit about ruining the local economy. Just destroying, like, we want to own everything and control all the media and make you think one way, and we just look at you like a mindless consumer. We just want to sell you shit. We don't give a fuck about you. But look, we have a diverse workforce. That shit really gets on my tits. It really does. I don't like that. Because if you really care about diversity, why are you talking about it like that? Because what you should do is let your actions fucking speak for you, right? But of course, these guys don't care, do they? All they want to do is make it look like they're doing it. Oh, look at us. Look at this. Look how well we're doing with our diversity. We're so inclusive. We let everybody work for us. But then behind the scenes, we are making nuclear weapons and destroying countries, ripping them off their resources. Hooray! Went on a bit of a tangent there. But that's what I do. Fuck 'em, man. I don't like that shit. Right, well, there's some of my political views I spouted out for you. You know how I said I didn't really want to get into politics? I literally just did. It just came out naturally. Anyway, to move on to something a bit more interesting, I wanted to look at some of the dark secrets of Disney. Whoa. Yeah, so I did a little bit of investigating into kind of some of the crazy things that some of the rumors behind Disney and the dark secrets. But they're not all that dark, they're just kind of a bit odd and interesting. So, one of the first ones I learned about was Walt Disney was apparently an FBI informant back in the day. Interesting, right? So, I'll just read this sort of description of what happened. So, not many people know that Walt Disney had a special relationship with then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Due to the friendship, Disney was one of the rare studios which was allowed to film inside the FBI headquarters in Washington. That's pretty crazy. As a return gesture, Disney granted the FBI access to all Disney parks and film scripts, which FBI used to influence time and again. Reportedly, Disney even testified against a group of protesting animators before the House Committee at the behest of the FBI. Well, you look at that. This one's quite interesting. So I looked at this. So Disney was responsible for lemmings committing mass suicide. So apparently there was like this movie called The White Wilderness, and they apparently influenced public knowledge about lemmings, which are almost like they sort of look like hamsters almost. I didn't even know what they were until I read this, and apparently Disney made it seem like they often commit mass suicide when the population grows out of control. But that actually isn't true at all. It's not actually what happens. That is not how it works at all. That's not what lemmings do. But lemmings don't actually jump to their own death. But Disney in the White Wilderness film used some clever edits and angles to deceive viewers into thinking what they were seeing was what lemons naturally do. Lemmings? There's not lemons. Lemmings? That they commit suicide. So that's fucking crazy. Something else that's I don't know. This one's not as interesting, but there is no clear explanation regarding abandoned parks. By the way, this is from the website Dark Secrets of Disney, edtimes.in. So how valid these are, I can't really speak for how valid they are. It's just kind of interesting. So some Disney parks have been abandoned without any clear explanation, with the most controversial one being the River Country, Disney's first water park. While Disney maintains that River Country was closed down because of the dwindling footfall, the reality is pretty shocking. In 2001, oh gosh, I can't pronounce this, Naegleria fowleri, a brain-eating amoeba, was discovered in the lake surrounding River Country. This lake was the major source of water for the water slides. Therefore, some sources argue that the park was closed because of the amoeba that directly attacks the human brain. What is even more intriguing is that a guest died in 1980 because of the same amoeba, but even then the River Country Park remained functional and was only closed down 20 years later in 2001. Whoa, that actually is quite spicy. Alright, I think this one might be a well-known one in America, but I don't know about it. The mysterious death of Debbie Stone. So 18-year-old Debbie Stone was a hostess on the ride. American Sings at was a hostess on the ride American Sings at Disneyland, California, and her job was to bid farewell to the leaving audience. But only 9 days later, Debbie's body was found mysteriously crushed between a rotating wall and a stationary one. Some members of the audience admitted to hearing screams from backstage, but ignored them, thinking all of this was a part of the performance. Till this date, the mystery of her death has not been properly solved. Oh my god, that is awful. Man, that is awful. That's some scary stuff. Alright, we've got the last one. This one's a weird one. So, Disneyland reports numerous incidents of people spilling ashes of their loved ones. Ugh, Man, going to Disneyland just to spill your loved one's ashes or family's ashes. I mean, I get it for like your kids, right? But still, yeah, that's pretty rank. But there are some massive Disney lovers out there, and I can see that some people would really want that. I think it's a bit strange, but hey. Anyway, let me read this. Since the 1990s, there have been numerous incidents where people have been caught spreading the ashes of their loved ones throughout Disney theme parks. This occurrence has become so common that Disney has a trained, dedicated staff just to handle such occurrences. This crew uses sophisticated vacuum cleaners to remove the ash particles from the air and prevent them from entering the lungs of the tourists. From the above secrets, you can clearly understand that Disney. Okay, blah blah blah. They got special vacuum cleaners to remove ash particles from the air. Wow. Okay. Well, goddamn. Disney, you seedy bastards. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a 100-year-old entertainment company. I mean, what do you think? You reckon they're going to be honest souls? Come on. Come on. All right. Sweet, guys. That's kind of all the shit I had to talk about. Hope if you listened for this long, thank you so much. Trying my best at these. I definitely appreciate anybody who wants to listen to my ramblings and such. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't worry, I have some cool guests coming on in the next few weeks. So yeah, we'll have some better content for you, whoever's sticking around. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys listening to Yoni Scots and being a part of our crazy journey. Sweet as. All right, thank you very much. Bye.